Feels like a long time since I've been up here. I think I could do this. So Mary and Joseph are engaged. To get to an engagement, there's been, engagement. Mary and Joseph have been engaging with one another. They've been engaging in each other's families. There have been a long series of yeses. Maybe? I think so. That's how I imagine it, anyways. But it's not a straight line. It rarely is. Matthew is so sparse in his description of events that it's difficult for my brain and heart not to search out Luke's account and collapse the two. It's not good exegetical form to do this, by the way. But I'm afraid my heart cannot resist the temptation. In the passage that comes just before this one, we get a long list of fathers and sons, with a few interesting mothers thrown in the mix. Tamar, the prostitute, Rahab, the spy, Ruth, the migrant, outsiders, upstarts, all outrageous and unexpected. And then at this long list of sons beget by fathers come the promise of a child who will be God with us, God's own and Mary's. This is where I cannot help but think of Luke's account, which is the account of Mary's yes to this fork in the road. Mary receives the angel's word, ponders it, and then gives herself to God's project for the world in her. She does it without consulting anyone, including her husband-to-be. I don't think Joseph was counting on that, was he? I don't think Joseph was counting on Mary's freedom. We can't presume he done everything right. He got permission from Mary's family, which means he struck a satisfactory bargain with Mary's dad. And Mary had given her consent. She was young. He probably figured he could mold and shape her into the wife he'd been waiting for. Which just tells me that Joseph didn't know much about self-possessed teenage women. Joseph wasn't counting on Mary and giving herself, her yes, to anything beyond their engagement and marriage. But Mary is anything but meek and mild, right? She says yes to a project that will require everything of her and Joseph as well, without even talking it over with him. She is free to say yes on her own terms, and she does. Which has consequences. And we know this by her song, the Magnificat. My soul magnifies the Lord who has done magnificent things for me. God's mercy is for those who fear God. God has scattered the proud, raises the lowly, topples thrones and rulers. God feeds the hungry, sends away those who have already eaten more than their share. Those are words from her song. Mary knows where God's projects lead. There are consequences. Some will hit close to home. If Luke's birth narrative is Mary's story, Matthew's gospel that we just heard gives us Joseph's story. How Joseph finally came to say yes. Joseph learns what his sweet fiancée has consented to. And while Luke tells us that Mary pondered a bit, but quickly came around to let it be, everything in Joseph was saying, no, no, no. This can't be. So he resolved to get out of the engagement. He's a good man. He'll do it quietly. A hush deal with Mary's father. Yes, the men will work it out. Perhaps Mary could go and live with her cousin Elizabeth, and they would raise their out of the ordinary babies together. But Joseph, bless him, is also a man who is given to dreams, isn't he? And he pays attention to them. When the angel appears to Joseph in his dream, he starts out the way all angels begin. Don't be afraid. Which frames and nails our human predicament. Fear. Fear, I believe, is what so often makes me begin with no. Fear is a chasm I've got to cross to get to yes. Maybe it's not so for everyone. But some of us seem to have to begin with no before we can get to yes. Which drives me crazy. You've heard it 100 times. You're in a meeting and there are great ideas coming forth, but just as an action plan is starting to shape up, someone has to talk about why it won't work, why it won't be effective, why nobody will come or listen, how it will be misinterpreted. And then I think how sometimes I'm that person myself. Very much so. In so many ways. You know how good improv theater works, right? Or collaborating to create a dance or music. It's all about people saying yes to one another, isn't it? Engaging their yeses. Yes, and then we could, how about yes, let's do it. No's stop the flow. No's create doubts. Which is not to imply that saying yes is always the right thing, believe me. But we do have to find our way to yes and stand there. Joseph is finding his way to yes. Don't be afraid. This is what it takes to break open Joseph's heart. And rather than being sensible and patching it up quick, Joseph answers Mary's yes with his own. He's in. He's in all the way with Mary. He's in all the way with the baby. He's in all the way with God's project. Let the chips fall where they may. God's project is with human beings, and we human beings are on notice as Advent leans into Christmas. Well, are we in? Thank you for responding. Yes. That was pretty amazing. All right. I'm not alone up here. Well, we say yes. Yes. Well, we keep engaging others and inviting them in. What in you is saying no, no, no? How will you move from no to yes? That Joseph, yes, had to pass through his no, no, no is instructive here. Don't count anyone out of the process just because they are stuck in no right now. Keep bringing the angel's message. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to find a way to act like neighbors do. Don't be afraid to find a way to act like neighbors do, all the neighbors, those with homes and those without, those who are moving up and in, and those who are made poor and kept poor and who are getting pushed out. Keep saying it. Don't be afraid. It's complicated. Be clear. Still, don't be afraid. That is why I believe that CCSM, one of the things that I know we take pride is being a social justice church, which keeps opening the way in, doesn't it? It holds a place at the table for those who haven't shown up yet, or those who are stuck in no right now, because the strangest things can break open another's heart. A piece of music, a dance, a dream, a story, a poem, a baby, a church. It's not a straight line. We will have to pass through and let go of our nose and what we think cannot be. We will have to resist the fear-driven temptation to just patch things up quickly. But during Advent, we prepare ourselves for God making a way out of no way. Watch for the signs. What the hell? Be bold to ask for a sign. Because in this fear-filled world, we need signs of hope, peace, joy, and love to guide and carry us, don't we? We should seek and ask. Pay attention. God is sending a sign. A young woman will bear a child whose name shall be Emmanuel, which means God with us. Really, don't be so afraid. God's project is with human beings. So I have to ask again, well, are we in? Will we engage and even marry ourselves to God's project in God's way? Will we keep engaging others and inviting them in, even making and keeping covenants with one another to discern God's way of justice, mercy, and love? Because here is our hope, our peace, our joy. Love makes a way out of no way. It's the only way. It's our only hope, our only peace, our only deepest joy. Listen and watch for angels. You will recognize them because they say the same thing every time. Don't be afraid. In these blessed days of Advent, with our first candle lit today, kindled around the wreath, may we feel health and the circle of God's love. Rest there and find your way to say yes. Amen.